Voices from Inside is having a benefit this Saturday. I'm joined in the studio by Marion von Arsdale, Elisa Klein, and somebody else. First of all, let's talk about Voices from Inside. President of the board, Marion.
Voices from Inside is an organization that's been going for 10 years. It provides writing workshops for women who are incarcerated and formerly incarcerated in Western Massachusetts. So volunteer facilitators go into Women's Correctional Center in Chicopee, to Howard Street in Springfield, and do an after-incarceration support center in Springfield, and provide workshops that follow the Amherst Writers and Artists model to allow women who have never had the experience, in many cases, of creative writing, find their voices, share their stories, and build leadership skills and confidence at the same time.
Now, Elisa Klein, you go into the jails and work with these women and have heard wonderful stories while working with these women.
The writing that comes out of it is absolutely remarkable, and the relationships that develop in the writing groups are very different from the relationships the women have as inmates that are incarcerated. So we've seen some really amazing stuff on an interpersonal level come out of the writing groups, too.
How do you break the women out of their shell?
Well, we try to kind of build up to allowing them to kind of increase their sense of vulnerability with their writing, because they can get kind of deeper into more intense and personal stuff the more we kind of work at that. And I was kind of modeling, I think it was the second or third group, I was kind of modeling for the women, allowing yourself to be a little bit vulnerable with your writing. And I wrote a piece that I then read about something very hard in my family of origin, and read it. And as I read it, I started to cry a little bit. And one of the incarcerated women responded by going, "Wah!" And I was completely astounded. I looked up from the writing and I said, "That was rude. What was that about?" And she proceeded to tell us that, in fact, in the last writing group she had been in with Voices from Inside, they had developed that as a way to respond, to make people feel better if they were getting upset. And another one of the women called her out and said, "That's not true. You just made that up." And we all had a good laugh about it.
But did that open up their ability to communicate a little more, to kind of break the ice?
It absolutely did. And in fact, really from that moment on, the women started writing much more intense and vulnerable pieces, really telling their stories and some of the hardest stuff from their lives. We hear about stories of intense abuse from people's homes, abuse in their in their families of origin, but also in their relationships as adults. We hear about drug use. We hear about the pain of raising children, with all kinds of stresses and pressures in their lives. I mean, it's an incredible glimpse into how a lot of women in our society struggle with drug addiction, struggle with poverty, all of those kinds of stressors.
Elisa Klein, who's a facilitator with Voices from Inside, and Marion van Arsdale, who is the president of the board of Voices from Inside. Is it a transformative process to be able to express yourself that way?
It certainly is, and part of what we see over time that is so exciting for us is that women who begin as participants in our workshops and finish their time in incarceration will come out and go through our training, become co-facilitators, go on and facilitate groups. Several of our women have gone on to community college, on to Smith College, and then serve on our board.
And do they view it as a direct link between what?
Absolutely. And that's one of our big links, is that we're not just building writing opportunities, we're building confidence and leadership that will help women when they come out use their voices in different ways. And that can be transformative for them and certainly for all of us who have the opportunity to work with them.
And at the event that we're doing on Saturday night, we'll have a chance to hear from 4 of those women about what VFI has meant to them, how it's moved them along their path in life in positive ways.
Someone else you'll be able to hear from at the event on Saturday night is also in the studio from NBC's The Voice, local hero from Amherst, Michelle Chamuel.
Hello.
Coming up, we'll talk to Michelle Chamuel about The Voice and expressing oneself with one's own voice. Michelle will be speaking at the Voices from Inside event this Saturday at First Churches.
This was never the way.
Michelle Chamuel. I don't watch television, but for the 3rd time now, I've found myself watching NBC's show The Voice because local hero musician, friend of the station, a.k.a. has been on The Voice. Local hero Michelle Brooks Thompson has been on The Voice. And now you, Michelle Chamuel. I'm a fanboy. at this point. I'm going to admit it. Everyone around here at this station, including myself, all fell in love with you and your glasses.
Oh, man.
And the nerd cool that you brought to the entire world.
Thanks, Monty.
Tell me a little bit about what your involvement, first of all, is going to be with Voices from Inside this event on Saturday, where women who are incarcerated are expressing themselves creatively.
This is a discussion that we're going to be having to raise awareness about the importance of self-expression and the access to those tools, as well as the ability to express yourself. And it's important to me because it brings this organization that does most of its work inside walls and in places that you can't see and that you don't have access to. It brings it into a place where we can engage with it and support it.
Now, here's what I find to be fascinating, and I may be reading more into this, and certainly it's not as severe a level as these women who are incarcerated are having to deal with. But you are a musician, you've been in bands, and you're then on this musical competition show. The American Idols and those type of shows seem very, controlling and manufactured. And now, after coming runner-up, have decided I'm not going to do exactly what people expect me to do and do some of the type of music that I was doing on The Voice. You right now have available music people who fell in love with you on The Voice might find slightly different.
Absolutely, they would find it different.
What is it, first of all?
What's interesting about prison itself, it's a structure, it's a societal construct to generate something in that same way. Any industry that functions on a mass scale is you're going to run up against some type of very disparate but similar issues. And not that, one is completely voluntary to enter into an industry and the other is absolutely not. I think there are similarities as far as trying to express yourself and finding yourself hitting walls in whatever system you're in.
Right.
And so that's also why this program that is for women who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, you can say, okay, that's a marginalized group in our society or it's sectioned off. It's also something that everyone can learn from, because we face our own walls and our own prisons.
It's my perception that it would be hard for me as a person who used to be in bands to go and be on a show like that. Was it hard for you?
There were a lot of challenges, and I grew a lot from it. And that show itself, it really prides itself on having a lot of heart and supporting individuality. So even though negotiating for what I wanted was a very long process sometimes, I always felt heard.
Do you feel like you by and large got what you wanted? Because there was some times where I thought, this seems so perfect and kind of rare that they're allowing her to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really fortunate. I had a coach
who happens to be Usher. He's very understanding and took time to learn and listen and advocate for what he saw that I was fighting for as well. And the show did too. I mean, it's sometimes even these giant institutions can be trapped in their own it's not like they want to keep anybody from doing the things that would help them to express themselves, but there isn't necessarily a way inside it to allow for that to happen. Because nobody has kind of broken down the barrier yet in some ways. And what I felt like your glasses became this rallying cry for these type of shows. I honestly would be like, I'm just so glad that they let her wear those glasses all the time. Rachel Maddow used to be the host here. She doesn't wear her nerd glasses on television every night, but you wear your nerd glasses all the time, and I love that.
Thank you. They're extremely functional.
Well, that's true, but I mean, you would think that they'd say, oh no, we'll get her contacts, we'll try to make her look like somebody that she's not. But it seemed to me, or at least wanted to believe, that you were being able to maintain that level of your own identity.
Absolutely. On a show where people are voting for you based on who they see you as, you're putting a barrier directly in between you and them, in addition to the TV. So they're like, we want you to stay. We want everyone to do their best. So they're trying to help you. So by saying, hey, we'll get you contacts. Let's try this, new glasses, whatever. Let's change it up. Let's try to make this an asset for you. And me, I was just like, I need these to see. I can't keep switching up my glasses.
That is awesome.
I just.
And they said, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
They said she's going to get voted off the island in 2 seconds anyway. But then you proved them wrong. And I also thought this was cooler. You came in second. If you had come in first, I would have been like, maybe she had to make too many compromises to win the whole thing. But because you came in second, I thought you maintain your level of indie cred.
I'll take it.
Am I the first person to say that?
You are the first person, and I take it. Because there have been conversations about doing a show like that's so mainstream, losing your indie cred, whatever that means. And I'm an indie artist, so there was worry on the inside of being like other people being like, Michelle, have you made a giant mistake?
Right.
Have you alienated all the fans that would be your fans, and then you made a whole bunch of fans that are going to be alienated when you actually release your music?
But you don't care, and that's awesome.
You got to do what you got to do.
I would have cashed in. I would have said, I'm going to make whatever album they want me to make and make as many millions as I can and then do whatever I want after that. But you're kind of doing it a little bit in the reverse here.
Well, I mean, that's why it's really important for me to be a part of this event with Voices from Inside, because it's, for me, confidence and meaning in life comes from being able to be myself. I think it's a basic human right to be able to be yourself.
So you're not going to be performing on Saturday night at First Churches at this event for Voices from Inside. What will you be doing?
We'll be having a conversation about creativity and its relevance and importance in society. I'll be personally talking about some more of my creative process. And
do you have, when you were on The Voice, a favorite song that you were like, I'm so glad that I did this one?
One song that I'm so glad we got to do it was the song Clarity by Zed featuring Foxes. I'm really, really glad we got to do it because that was a more electronic, lesser known. I mean, it was already a huge hit.
But it wasn't a huge hit like they usually do on shows like that.
Yeah, it was a little left of center from what was normally happening, so I was really excited. I also loved when I got assigned True Colors by, it's the Cyndi Lauper tune, but Anna Brun is the woman.
This is our icon. For those who don't know, in our studio there's a doll that it's a creepy doll, but it does say, play some Cyndi Lauper, please.
Oh my God, I love it.
We love
I
her.
wish people could see that.
Do you still talk to Usher?
Yes.
Nice. I'm glad that just didn't go away when the show's over. That's always nice to hear. Michelle Chamuel in conversation about creativity and being oneself, a benefit for Voices from Inside. This Saturday, First Churches, Northampton. Tickets available at Cereos and State Street and at the door.